Welcome to Cos Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin' to the Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin' 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, Myopic Proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and Receptionist for Critical Blast Consulting. And tonight is a special one. Put your wallets away. Put your wallets away. Anything you can do tonight is free. Yes, absolutely free. We are celebrating a special anniversary tonight, 13 years with the podcast that we want to be when we grow up. Please welcome with me to the show, Mr. Jason Hunt from SciFi4Me. Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was a cute video. That was a nice introduction there.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. 13 years, man.
I know it's flown by in some ways. In other ways, it's taken forever to get here. But you know, it's
darn that relativity.
A heck of a ride. Yeah.
So take us back. I mean, what this studio that you're in now, I can't imagine that this is what it was for.
Oh no.
For first broadcast, first contact with the audience.
February of 2009 is when the Sci-Fi Channel, thank you, Keela, the Sci-Fi Channel decided that they were going to change their brand and they were going to become Sci-Fi, and SciFi. And people were like, what is that? What is that even? That's not even a word. And some people, you know, in other languages, it meant things that were not very flattering and whatnot. But there were a lot of people that were upset that the channel was changing its brand. Now, the way they explained it they were looking at licensing merchandise, and the Sci-Fi Channel in their mind was a little bit too generic as far as trademarks and stuff go, even though NBC Universal owned the trademark to the Sci-Fi Channel, and they let it lapse. I mean, you had the trademark and you're complaining that you can't trademark it. And anyway, so a lot of complaints at the time, because this is back when they were doing the cooking show and the reality stuff and the ghost hunters and the scare tactics and whatnot, and canceling every science fiction series that they had after 2 or 3, 4 years. And they had the wrestling on, I think, on Thursday night or Saturday night or something. And people suspected that they were trying to get ready and kind of prime the pump to move to be another USA Network type of thing and abandon the science fiction thing altogether. And so people are like, I just want a channel that's got science fiction. Why can't we just have that? 17 years, this network has done fairly well as a science fiction network. I mean, it may not have the ratings that NBC Universal wanted, but it was a popular network and it had a following. And I got into some of the different message boards and I said, well, what if there was another channel? Thank you, Mrs. Boss. I said, what if there was another channel that did the same kind of thing that was science fiction fantasy programming, but what if it was online? Because, I didn't have any money to put together another cable network or anything like that, or, equipment or personnel or anything like that.
Not yet. Super chats, folks. Super chats.
Yeah, that'll help. But back in the day, this is back before Netflix was doing any kind of streaming. I think Blockbuster was still around. They were still doing DVDs in the mail. Nobody was doing streaming. This was something that we had YouTube, we had Vimeo. And that was pretty much it as far as video platforms go. And I knew you could do some stuff with video. I was like, well, you could do video online. Why couldn't you do a TV network of some sort and all of that? So that was the original idea. And people responded to it. And I was like, okay, well, let's just do it. I didn't put any kind of thought to a plan like I should have. Because as I'm getting into doing this, I'm thinking, well, I really don't have everything that I need in order to be a new sci-fi channel. So let's just start out with the blog. And it started out like every other site. It was a blog in a basement, and it was just me and the computer. And I managed to get on a number of different media lists. So people would start sending me stuff so I could write reviews. And I was starting to get books and starting to get movies, DVDs and that sort of thing. And it eventually grew, and we recruited people and got more people involved in writing and doing the thing. And it just kind of took off from there. I mean, it's been a revolving door of volunteers. I would love to be able to pay everybody and actually create jobs and this thing be a real thing, but we haven't gotten there yet. I make the joke we're on the 15 years to overnight success plan.
There you go. Yeah. But
So we're
so
almost
more of a let's jump out of this airplane and finish stitching the parachute on the way down.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I need a parachute?
Can we make one of those out of clouds?
I know. Right. Oh, so
yeah.
yeah.
I remember the Sci-Fi Channel used to have a lot of not just the movies, everyone's knowing this, that's a sci-fi movie with the branding, because it would be like, the cheap CGI, that kind of thing. But they used to have, repeating series. They had, season. Wasn't Lex like a Sci-Fi Channel show?
Lex was on there. You had
Tripping the Rift, Cleopatra
2525. Of course, they got Farscape. They picked up Stargate SG-1, and then Atlantis and Stargate Universe. You had Warehouse 13. You had Eureka.
They totally ruined Sliders.
Well, yeah, they picked up Sliders. The 4400 was on USA. And then you had, of course, the Sci-Fi original movie, Sci-Fi Original Pictures, which was the schlock, Anaconda type of thing on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it had its own thing. And then of course you had, I think on Monday night you had Anna Monday, so you had a bunch of anime programming block on Monday night. And I remember those interstitials too, all of that CG, the little IDs and logos and stuff that went through. And actually, the planet in our logo, when I was feeling a little cheeky, I designed, because we were talking about redoing the logo at one point, and what we started out with was something fairly simple, because I figured, we just need something that's easy to create. You've got this logo here that's on the block. That was the first logo. And as we went through and I started getting a little bit more, feeling my oats a little bit, I decided, well, what if we did artwork that's reminiscent of the old Sci-Fi Channel logo? And that's where I'm trying to find it. That's where the planet started to come into play, and started incorporating that. And I figured, okay, well, when we came back, we went on hiatus for a while in 2018. When we came back, I said, we need a new logo. And that's where the current one sits, that you open the show with. That's the current logo. And it took a little bit to figure out exactly how we were going to do it. I wasn't sure if we were going to do a planet there, if we were going to do our rocket ship, but yeah, it's become a thing. And I backed away from it a little bit because I didn't want the Sci-Fi Channel to come after us.
Well, they're going to say, hey, you're using the trademark we abandoned.
Well, not the trade. I actually thought about going in and picking up the Sci-Fi Channel as a trademark, just to have it, but I figured, nah, probably not a good idea, because who wants to fight that fight, right?
Yeah, it's not the greatest hill to die on.
No.
Mike Walters in the chat. Welcome. Always glad you're here. Thank you for sharing and saying hello to everybody. Mike will be on the mic stand 1 hour from now. In fact, well, not 1 hour, 45 minutes from now, at the top of the hour. So be sure to check him out.
So here's, okay, I did find it. So here is, let me share a screen here with you, because we did use this on a little bit of promotional pieces, and that's kind of hints at one of the old Sci-Fi logo, Sci-Fi Channel logos, where they had Sci-Fi in the middle and Channel around underneath. And I played with it a little bit. And of course, the rocket ship has been with us from the beginning. And a buddy of mine, from a guy I went to high school and college with, designed it for us and rendered it out. And, it's one of those things where I figured it's cheeky enough, but at the same time, I knew that it would be better for us to have our own identity, our own brand. So the planet has been incorporated into a lot of the artwork that we've done, but not so much swiping at the Sci-Fi Channel, because really, once they changed executives and Dave Stern was gone, and you had the new guy come in, their marching orders were, make this Sci-Fi Channel a science fiction channel again. And it really felt like they were trying to come back, and they kind of have, even though they still are, canceling shows after only 3 seasons. But, I look at it as not worth the time to compete with anybody. And that goes true for other YouTube channels too.
Yeah. One thing I recall about the old Sci-Fi Channel, in fact, this was true for a lot of channels, because I worked for another media review company before I formed Critical Blast. I worked for thetrades.com. I didn't own that one. I just worked for them. And I would get packages in the mail from the Sci-Fi Channel, which were like, they were publicity kits, but one was like a fake mahogany box with poker chips and playing cards. And a DVD with, watermark DVD of some movie they were getting ready to do. I had to do with zombies in Vegas.
Right.
So hence why the themed box. But you get really cool stuff. I think I still have my my Dominion from that series. They had a book, and you open the book, and the book glows from the interior pages, so it's like you can hide something in it, but it lights up. CW used to send out advanced DVDs of upcoming episodes, and that's all gone by the wayside as well. They all just go digital.
Yeah, when Sci-Fi changed their logo, their art, their marketing brand, the branding artwork to the current logo that it's now the square, I thought it was interesting, but I was like, hey, their logo's a square now. Kind of looks like ours a little bit.
Hey, I mean, you should have trademarked that one.
I know. I'm like, well, we yeah, and yes, we do. I do have a hat and a pin, because when they changed all of that, they sent out a little kit to a little swag kit to all the media and said, hey, we've changed our brand. Here's our new logo and all of this. And it's, I don't even know where the hat is right now. It's somewhere, but it's nice getting those things. But yeah, you're right. A lot of that stuff has gone by the wayside, because now it's all digital screeners. Yep. And the swag bags don't go to the little guys anymore. It goes to, people with, 150, 300,000 subscribers and followers. I'm still flabbergasted, although I shouldn't be surprised, at the number of cosplayers and TikTokers and Instagrammers who are getting invited to these red carpet screenings and the premieres and the whatnot. I was like, what are you doing there?
Yeah, what do you
You're
bring
not
to the
even
table?
a media person. You're not cosplayers. I can see maybe, but they're not in costume. They're dressed to the nines because this is a red carpet event and we're all pretty people. I'm just like, why are you there? I'm fine. You want to be there, but why are you
influencers? They're influencers.
Well, and I guess that means I'm not an influencer, which is fine. I don't want to have influence over people. That's not how this rolls.
So, when was it after you got started? You're like, okay, we're opening a blog. We're going to do news and reviews. We're going to deal with science fiction.
Yeah.
Who was the first person you got as an interview where you realized, oh, this is when you realized you'd gone above your pay grade? I'm a basement blogger and I'm talking to.
I don't know that I ever had a moment like that. Partially because this is not my first foray into media.
Okay,
I started when I was 18 years old. I started in college radio, and some of that involved being a DJ. Some of that involved being in programming and executive type stuff, and some of it involved news. And so I had a little bit of experience back in the day of broadcasting, and through the years, I've done radio, done television, done motion pictures. I did a movie with Jackson Bostwick, who played Captain Marvel in the old CBS TV series.
Okay, yes.
And it's not really, I've never really been, I guess the last time I was really starstruck, dumb, and didn't say anything was when I met Walt Garrison at a basketball tournament. I was in junior high, I think, and we were down there for the tournament, and his kid was also playing in the tournament on a different team. And for those of you who don't know, Walt Garrison played for the Dallas Cowboys. And everybody in Texas knew who Walt Garrison was. And so, we had the opportunity to go up and meet. Well, hey, there's Walt Garrison over there. There's Walt Garrison. Okay. We all went over to meet Walt Garrison. And I kind of hung back a little bit because this is Walt Garrison. What am I going to do? And since then, I've come to understand, and my dad helped me. He was like, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
And all of these celebrities and everybody that gets up on stage and all of these actors and whatnot, they're just people. And this is something that I tell everybody that comes in here. who, if you're interviewing someone, if you're doing a Q&A or moderating a panel with somebody, and I tell them, like, they get up, they put their pants on one leg at a time, same as we do. They're all just regular people. And
George has loaned out $20 billion because everybody in the world owes him
everybody
$5.
Well, I think to get back to your question, I think probably the above my pay grade interview probably would be Ming-Na Wen, probably more than anybody else, because that one was a little surreal. I've done a panel with Carrie Elways, and I've done with Lee Majors and Margot Kidder, and lots of different people, Stephen Amell from Arrow. But doing that one with Ming-Na Wen, I think, is probably the one that is really the kind of pinch myself, what am I really doing here? The other one was did I moderate that one? I don't think I didn't moderate it, but I introduced everybody. When Peter Mayhew did a Q&A, I didn't stay on stage. I just introduced everybody and they all went up and did stuff. But yeah, it's been really interesting, the number of people that we've been able to interview. And I've never really gotten, the heebie-jeebies or the nerves of, oh, what am I going to say? Because this is my background. This is what I've done for over 30 years now.
Yeah, when I was doing it for the trades, I was really surprised at how far you can get with a phone call on a website. You call someone up and say, I work for such and such.com, and you hear daddy. And I'm like, okay, how can we help you? And like, well, we're looking for review material, and you're not a partner with us yet. And lo and behold, stuff shows up. People come on your show. Back then, we didn't have a show. It was a phone call. I talked with people like Neil Gaiman and Peter David for 45 minutes on the phone at a time, and then spend 3 days typing up text from a tape recorder. Thank God for live streaming.
Right,
saving so much time now.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I did an interview with I want to say it was Carta Angelo that was telling me about this, because this is back in the day when Starlog magazine was a thing, and I want to say it was Carta Angelo was telling me about this, because there was the phone call, and you call and say, I'd like to interview Gene Roddenberry. He called Lincoln Enterprises or whatever they were at in the time, and he was in college. And back in those days, the phone was in the hallway, right? It was the community phone that everybody had to use in the dorm, right? And he gets a call back because he missed him. And there's some guy named Roddenberry's on the phone, called him back, and they actually set up a time and went and did the interview. But it really kind of surprises me, like you're talking about, how relatively easy it is when you get in touch with somebody and say, this is the media outlet that I'm working for. And I usually preface it, we're new, we're small, we're online or whatever. And now, anytime that I do anything, if I'm sending an invite to do an interview, if I'm asking for review material, whatever, I make a point to say we've been at this since 2009, because that longevity adds to our credibility. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, you didn't just launch
brand new off the turnip truck. So it helps with that. But there's also, every now and again we'll fall off of somebody's media list. I mean, I can't remember the last time I got anything from Netflix, for example, because we stopped doing reviews of a number of things, series recaps and whatnot. And so you don't do anything for a while, and you don't get to do anything. So you got to reach out again.
Companies that have done that, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to stay on top of that too. It's in instead of losing your access, but you don't. We anyway, we don't do the reviews. Let's say nice things so we keep our access. We don't do that.
No, I've given poor reviews. I gave a mediocre review one time that had the director of a documentary sending me spates of emails telling me how my days were numbered, and that my time in this business was through. And I finally just emailed the publicity agent. I'm like, I don't know if this is a guy trolling me and spoofing his email, but I'm just letting you know. And they're like, we'll take care of it. And the next email I got was an apology from the same email address saying that this was his first film and he felt very protective of it. I'm like,
I sometimes think that when you look at the behavior online, different social media accounts, different people behaving badly like that, there have been times early when I sat there and said, well, maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe they feel really protective of this thing, and maybe the thing. And the longer we go, the less I believe that. The more I'm sitting there saying, I see their behavior and I think, okay, you're just a terrible person. I would hate to interact with you in person if you're like this in real life. And I've never really had a bad interaction with celebrities, writers or authors or anybody. I've never had a bad moment. There was one slightly odd off kilter moment, but it wasn't, actor feeling his oats. Here's what we're going to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
my off kilter moment happened. Not with the phone. I never had one with the phone. Everyone's very helpful with phone interviews. But one of my first video interviews, the first question, first answer is my first and only off kilter moment, and I survived it. And it was with Harlan Ellison.
I can only imagine how sideways that went.
Oh, I have relived that interview thousands of times in my head, saying, "If only I had said." Not because I was like, I had him for a very brief time at a convention. We had struggled to set up the time because I was like, where would you like to meet? And he's like, just set it up. Just set it up. So his wife looks at me and says, just set it up. I'm like, okay, this time outside this thing when he's done with that, and we'll do it in the hall. And I asked him, I was like, you've written so many things and yet you've been able to still live a life. And like, how can, what would you tell people who want to write and be as prolific? And he's like, well, that's a stupid question. I was like, I knew it would be. I was warned. But
I tell people whenever they're getting ready for review to do interviews, the more homework you do, the more research that you do, the easier it can be. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. But I always encourage our people to find those things that people don't generally ask them about. So, like, say if you're talking to, Harlan Ellison, and you're looking at all of these different interviews that people have done with him, well, he gets asked the same question over and over and over again. Let's find something new to ask him about, and the more information that you have in your head, or you got it on a note card or something, if they mention something that gives you an opportunity that you can circle into, oh, hey, well, you talked about this, let me ask you about X. It makes the conversation much more interesting for the person who's getting interviewed. And it's not something that you just fall into. I mean, it does take a little bit of practice. It does take a little bit of time to get that skill set. It's like working a muscle. You learn how to do something, and then the more you do it, the easier it gets.
You've got to screw up. If you don't screw up, you're not learning anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've screwed up a few times.
I've learned a lot.
Wow.
So you got a number of shows now on the SciFi4Me.tv network, so to speak. And you brought up this point before where you're trying to make like a return to appointment television, where you have shows that are scheduled and such. Is that still still the goal? Still the case?
It is. One of the things that I've told the staff here, and I've mentioned it in a couple of other places where I've had conversations with people. My approach has been that I'm not treating this like a typical YouTube channel, quote unquote, because YouTube channels, it's just, most of the time it's somebody, they got a camera, they got a microphone, they're just going to blast whatever it is that they think about something and they'll tell you what it is. Some other channels are a little bit more sophisticated. They got the opening title sequence and they get various different graphics and videos and whatnot. But I'm looking at this because YouTube is temporary. At some point, YouTube is going to fall apart and people are going to migrate to other platforms and do other things. And YouTube is doing their best to shoot themselves in the head with all of that too and make that happen.
Oh yeah.
But I've decided my approach to this is to treat it, going back to the origins of the thing, to treat it like it's a regular TV network, a regular TV channel that just happens to be on YouTube among all of the different various video platforms that we're on. Because we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Odyssey, we're on BitChute. BitChute I don't use, but we're ported over to Rumble. We put all of our broadcasts live to Facebook at the same time. We go to Odyssey and YouTube. We've got a Twitch channel. And my thinking is whatever the platform, the programming will be the same. So what we do is not dependent on where you see it. And there are a lot of the YouTube and TikTok, TikTok's got a specific type of format that works. Snapchat, Twitter, all of those have, this is what you do when you're on this platform.
I never understood TikTok. I'm like, TikTok is YouTube, but 12 seconds long.
Yeah, I'm not into TikTok. I don't have any interest in it. I was like, that's not going to be something for us. But if we do, like you said, the appointment television, and we have the schedule, and we do it. We do most of our stuff live, and we upload some stuff afterwards, but people can find us. But if we have a fixed timetable of when we do shows, that gives us a consistency that you don't get from a whole lot of others. Now, there are some channels out there that do their shows at a X date, X time, on a particular day. And I think there's benefit to that more than just sporadically, randomly throwing a video out whenever you feel like it. But there's some pros and cons to doing it either way.
Yeah. Now, you had said before that, this sort of grew out of, the Sci-Fi Channel drifting away from being a sci-fi channel and you coming up with a replacement for it. And now you've just talked about this being like a TV channel. Mm-hmm. Everything on it is news and discussion. Have you ever envisioned a point where SciFi4Me.tv, by the way, folks, that's a URL. You can type that in somewhere and bookmark it and subscribe. So I would encourage you to do that. But have you ever seen a point in time where you carry other kinds of media, like fictional content,
yes,
adventure stuff?
Yeah, one of the original ideas, because when I first conceived this in my head, I thought, okay, this is going to be a one-stop shop. So basically, the way I saw it is if you picture the old town square, right? And on one side of the town square, you've got the newspaper, you got the town newspaper, you got the movie theater, you got the radio station over here, you got the community center, and you got the library, and you got the radio station, all of these different things on this town square. And my original thought was to have a little bit of all of that. So the TV station is all of the video stuff, including original movies and television series and whatnot, as well as pulling from public domain libraries and movie libraries that are out there. Of course, it costs money to get
Yeah.
to get copies of those films that you can do. I mean, we could get 15. You know, we could get a number of public domain B and C stock movies, but it would cost us, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 just for to actually get the copies made to send to us.
Yeah, I was going to
look into that. And
and there's people doing that. George Peter Gatsis is in the chat, and his channel every Friday and Saturday night they run a public domain sci-fi goofy kooky movie, and they make fun of it.
One of the problems that George has runs into, and he's talked about this, is the fact that he has to alter those in certain specific ways in order to get around whatever YouTube copyright system is in place. And if we were somewhere else, not on YouTube, like say if we had a Roku channel, for example, we could take those public domain movies and we could air them as is, and we could do maybe kind of like Joe Bob Briggs does or Elvira does, where we do these little wraparound interstitials that says, hey, we're going to be talking about a movie, let's watch the movie, and you do something like that. But you know, those kind of things where, you know, the radio station was the podcast, you got the library. I was going to do, because you have the Project Gutenberg, which is where you can find a lot of public domain books, you know, things that have fallen out of copyright. And the idea there was, let's get a Princess of Mars and format it as a SciFi4Me edition that you could print on demand, and you could sell new copies of the books. Because Sci-Fi actually did that for a little while. They did something, I think, Sci-Fi Essentials or they had a series of books that had the Sci-Fi Channel logo on them. They were new editions of these stories.
Yeah, you don't have to pay anybody to print them.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, the first 5 Barsoom books are out of copyright.
Right.
You know, there's a number of things, Frankenstein and whatnot, is Dracula, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, all of these timeless classics. And eventually I would still like to do that, where we could do a SciFi4Me library of essential classic science fiction and horror and that sort of thing. We haven't been able to do that yet because manpower, money, time, resources.
Yeah. My friend Michael Tierney, who's on our LCS Guys show, just did that several months back with Kursova Magazine. They, Michael had a copy of this, and apparently nobody else did, of a story called The Cosmic Courtship, or The Cosmic Courtship, by Julian Hawthorne, Nathaniel's son.
Okay, yeah.
And it was it's considered one of the first, if not the first, story of its kind. It was, breaking that ground into that pseudoscience romance kind of thing. Because, remember, Nathaniel Hawthorne's writing out Sleepy Hollow. Nobody was putting people on other planets.
Right. Well, and you look at things like, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and the early days of things, Jules Verne, Edgar Allan Poe, and that's it. You've got Mary Shelley with Frankenstein, but Mary Shelley wrote the one book, and whatever other work that she's done has fallen into relative obscurity compared to Frankenstein. Whereas you
should have released that in 7 volumes over time and just built an audience.
Yeah, well, I'm right. That's how you do it now.
Yes.
12 novels and 6 offshoots and 3 side quests and whatnot. But yeah, there all of the different things that we could do because it's online. We haven't really done it. And I guess the community center there in that town square, I guess Discord would now be something that functionally would serve in that capacity, if we can get Discord to a point where we can use it for anything. I mean, I've got all of these different things that are kind of sitting and percolating, and some of them are on the back burner and some over here to the side, kind of just gestating, because a lot of it is dependent on how many people you have and what they're able to do. from a skill set standpoint, from a technical standpoint, who has equipment, who has gear, who has knowledge. So, some stuff I would love to do, we're not in a position to do. I've got an idea for a genre version of Whose Line Is It Anyway? I would love to do an improv show. But we don't have any way to do it. I was talking at one point, there's a place downtown in Kansas City called Pond and Pipe, which is a board game place. You go in, you can order, you can get a drink from the bar and you go in and you play board games. Well, we were talking to them about doing a show called Hardcore Tabletop, which was basically, and I still want to do it and it's mine and nobody can take it, but it's one of those things where I would love to do a WWE wrestling style applied to Monopoly, Chutes and Ladders, Risk, and basically
do the pre-show interviews and such.
I know, right? Yes, and do the trash talk and all the thing, and you got ring girls and you got the announcers and everybody's.
What you gonna do when the little shooter shoe steps on you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I'll beat you 6 ways from Sunday.
That kind of thing. And I still love the idea. We got some voice tracks recorded from Tom. And it sat, and we were just about ready to do it, and then the thing kind of fell apart because we didn't have enough people that could get out there to get it done, because you got to set up all the equipment, you got to get all the cameras out, the computers and whatnot, and it just didn't work out. But I still want to do it. I would love to bring back a D&D night. We did that for a while. So there's a lot of things that I would love to do. Stuff that I would like to bring back that we've done before that maybe needs a second chance, massage the idea a little bit, refine it some and come back with it. But again, it comes down to manpower, because right now we've only got five people. Yeah. So and
it's all volunteer.
People, it's all volunteer. They've all got jobs, they all got families, they all got other obligations. I'm the only one that's in a position, because of my job, where I can sit and I can concentrate and I can spend a lot of time on this, because my job as a freelance media guy or a freelance stagehand is sporadic enough that it's, I can do this when I'm not doing that.
Now, you cover a lot of the movies, the books and such. I do a lot of, enough cross-country driving that I'm now grateful to pay the Sirius XM fee for the car. Before it was like, it's a luxury I don't really care about. No. Listen locally. But some of the best science fiction that I have found myself enjoying is the old radio shows, like X-1 and Dimension X. And they liked X a lot. It seemed like to be the letter that was mysterious. Do you have anything that touches on that stuff?
We don't at the moment. We have talked about doing original radio productions. When I was well before SciFi4Me was a thing, I was living in a town called St. Joseph, Missouri, which is where the Pony Express was headquartered. It's about an hour north of Kansas City, and was involved in a small theater company up there for a while. And we did live stage readings of various different shows, and one of the ones that we did was the Lone Ranger. I had contacted, at the time it was Broadway Video, which is Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live. His outfit owned the rights to the Lone Ranger, and I said, okay, this is who we are. It's a very small non-profit theater company. We're just starting out. Here's what we want to do. And they sent us copies of the first 5 scripts, the episodes for the old Clayton Moore show. And these were the shooting scripts. They were copies of the shooting scripts. There were pencil notes everywhere and all of these things. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And between the TV show and the original radio program that I had, we managed to adapt and do a live stage thing. And I don't know if you remember, Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey put together this outfit called Alien Voices. And they were on the Sci-Fi Channel, and they did like 4 or 5 different productions, and it was the same thing. You're all standing up on the stage, reading the script. You've got the guys over here doing the sound effects. You got the people back here doing all of the music, and it's a live. It's as if you bring the audience into the radio station for the show.
Yeah.
And but I've done that. We could do that, but again, it's finding the people to do it, because there are so many stories that are in the public domain. For example, The Wizard of Oz, or the book The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which has a lot more material in it than what's the movies got. But you could do those things. You could do those adaptations, Alice in Wonderland, and Around the World in 80 Days, and Journey to the Center of the Earth, and all of these different things. And at some point, I would love to do some of that. And I even talked to John Delancey one time. I was doing an interview with him down in Dallas, and we were talking about alien voices. And I was like, what happened? Why did it stop? And he said, because I ended up being a salesperson more than an actor. And I just want to act.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy who's selling the DVDs. I said, have you ever thought, and this is, I want to say this was after Nimoy had died. And I'd asked him, have you ever thought about licensing it out? If somebody paid you the money for the alien voices thing and handled all of that, would you be open to that? He said, yeah, I'd be fine with that. I was like, sign me up. Let's get the money. But it hasn't worked out that way.
Oh, I was just, I was asking that because I didn't know if you covered it, or would even able to replay it.
We haven't covered it. Tim is the audio book guy. I don't listen to audiobooks. I don't have that kind of a brain where I can sit and just listen to something. But we haven't actually covered it in the sense of we get the audiobook and we do a review. Tim's done a few reviews of audiobooks, audio production type of things, but it hasn't been a big thing on our list. But it probably should be.
Well, it would be I would listen to it. People talking about the old radio shows, dissecting one episode or another. But now that you brought up the whole idea of a stage play, I think that would be absolutely brilliant to take some of these older scripts and do YouTube audio reenactments of them all. In fact, with the digital world, I don't know that you would have to get 5 people in a room. Voice actors these days, they say they never see each other. They just come in and read their own lines. Mm-hmm. You might be able to just have people Dropbox their audio files in and just cut them all together.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed when talking about the new animated X-Men, X-Men 97, for example, they're all, I saw an interview with the gal who plays Rogue, and she's recording wherever she's at. She finds a spot and she records her dialogue and she sends it in. And she said it's much different from the first time when they were all up in Toronto and they were all together in the same soundstage and they were recording together and they were bouncing off of each other. And I think that gives you a better performance from everyone, because they're actually reacting to something that's there, they can see, they can touch, they can interact with, as opposed to, let me just read all of this stuff and send it in. I mean, Tom Kane told me one time it took forever for him to be able to convince Lucasfilm to let him record his Clone Wars dialogue here in Kansas City, where he lives, and send it in. And a lot of that had to do with security, because they wanted a secure internet line and network and all this. I mean, really, really, really locked down tight, because they didn't want anything getting out. They didn't want any leaks. And Tom was like, who am I going to tell? I'm in the middle of flyover country. I'm just like, what? And the Lucasfilm people are just paranoid about that stuff. But it took him years to convince them to let him do it. He's like, I got a recording studio in my house. This is what I do. I record stuff all the time for everybody. So it took a while, but you lose something when you don't have the interaction.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. That's yeah. If you have something to bounce off of, it's harder, I think, for the people who, and this has been true all the way back to the days of old time radio, when you have more than one character that's you. In fact, I just heard it on the Johnson Wax program with Fibber McGee and Molly a couple of weeks ago. One guy was talking and they asked him a question. He responded back in a different voice. He's like, "Oh, wrong character," and just went back to the real voice. And you get those kind of funny outtakes.
I remember listening to a recording of an Abbott and Costello show, and right in the middle, Costello lost his place. He's like, "What page are you on?" I was like, "Never mind what page I'm on." And then they've made it part of the bit, but yeah, that spontaneous anything can happen thing is kind of lost when you don't have that, everybody in the same space.
It's part of the charm, and it speaks to the professionalism of the people who are doing this, that it didn't result in dead air or pages turning. They just went with it and kept going, and it was funnier than probably it would have been without it. But that's neither here nor there. So we've talked about some of the things that you could do with the channel, some of the things you maybe envisioned way back. As we wrap up the hour here, what things are you going to be doing with the channel that are new?
That's a good question, because I don't know that we're going to be doing much new so much as trying to bring some stuff back. And a lot of it, again, depends on how many people we've got who are able to do it. One of the things that I want to do is restore a couple of our comic book related programs. One of them is called the Rogues Gallery, which started off as a podcast about the DC television shows. And if it comes back, when it comes back, I want it to be more of a general comic book industry discussion program that, we bring in some people like Perch and maybe Wes from Thinking Critical and some people who have actually been connected and involved with the comics industry in some way. Get a couple of retail shop owners and that sort of thing. Probably not going to invite Heather Antos on that one.
Oh, come on. She's an editor.
No. I would love to have Jim Shooter on for that. And then, we've interviewed Bob Rozakis before. He was the DC Answer Man, the Ask thing. We had him on the show early on. But you've got the Rogues Gallery, and then I've got a comic book news program called Comic Con Carne, which kind of plays with my Texas heritage. As the news part of it. So you've got, with all of our stuff with the Star Wars and Star Trek and all that, my general plan has always been have a news program, have a discussion program, because we don't want to keep those separate. And for Star Wars, we got Salacious Crimes, we got the Rancor Pit. And for Star Trek, we have Triple Bites as the news program, and Deep Space Mines was the discussion program. So I would like to do the same thing with the comics industry. We have, bring back Comic Con Carne as the news program and the Rogues Gallery as the discussion roundtable. But I need somebody who can do it, because I can only do so much myself, and I need to be able to duplicate those skills and have other people be able to do things. Otherwise, I'm locked in. We can only scale so much, because here's the studio, here's the control room. I need to teach other people how to do it.
Yeah, that multiplicity device hasn't been functioning yet.
Yeah. I need about 12 clones.
Yeah, that'd be plenty right there. Of course, by the time you get it up and running, the DC shows will be over. There won't be any left.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is the Rogues Gallery morphs into a broad overall comic book industry discussion. Here's what's going on. Here's how the sales are going. Here's the drama and all of these other things. what we're looking forward to, and keep it more of an overview of everything that's going on.
Well, speaking of comic news on that line, have you seen The Batman, and what did you think of it if you did?
I have. I liked it. I didn't care for the music score because I didn't hear the music score. It's online on YouTube. The whole album is online, and I'm listening to it. I got about 2/3 of the way through it. I was like, I don't remember any of this being in the movie.
Yeah, I know people complained about Nirvana.
Buried under the sound.
Nirvana they played.
But the theme to the music, I mean, Giacchino did not impress me this time. Normally, I like what he does. I especially like what he did with the Incredibles. But this one just didn't impress me at all. And the Batman's theme is the Imperial March from Star Wars. I mean, I'm sorry, it is. But overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. Detective movie. It was good to see Batman as a detective, something we haven't seen on in the movies before. It was about 20 minutes too long. Everybody walks too slow, getting to where they're going. Zack Snyder's got the ramp, slow motion, fast. That for whatever reason, Matt Reeves has everybody walking about turtle pace, so he's not doing slow motion, but he's got everybody moving slow, and it's very deliberate, it's very drawn out, everything breathes. But if you trim about 30 seconds of time off of every scene, because there are just too many gaps, there's too many pauses, everybody just kind of lingers, and if you trim some of that, you could probably shave 10 or 15 minutes right there. It's about 20 minutes too long.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought it was pretty good. It's pretty solid. Pattinson does a pretty good job as Batman, not so much as Bruce Wayne. And it's really
heard that before.
Yeah.
My thought is that this is still year 2 Batman, and they even bring it up in the show that hey, you don't get out. You're Bruce Wayne. You're not being Bruce Wayne very much.
There's a lot of Batman Earth 1 in this one, the Jeff Johns, Gary Frank,
good
thing.
stuff.
And because especially with Alfred's background in the British intelligence services, there's Batman Year One as part of this, Hush, Long Halloween. I mean, Matt Reeves is pulling from a lot of different stories, but he's not using story arcs so much as he's using an element. He's using a piece. Here's this.
He's not adapting anything. He's just,
so it's all. He's taking all of these pieces as ingredients for something new, and I think it works. I think they did really well with it.
Yeah, it came across like a Charles Bronson movie to me, and I like that.
Funny you should mention that, because that was the first thought that I had for Christopher Nolan's first Batman film. Was if you take the costume away, it could be a Charles Bronson movie. Yeah. Same thing here. Maybe not Bronson, but in that same kind of tone, that same kind of attitude is there. It feels a lot like those crime thrillers of the 70s. Like French Connection type of thing. Serpico.
Definitely. It had a big car chase scene in it. Come on.
It was a good scene. Now, Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon is wasted because he's not obviously playing Jim Gordon. He does a good job. I mean, it's a very good performance, but there's nothing that's distinctly Jim Gordon in this role. He could be playing any cop in the Gotham Police Department.
Yeah, the only thing that made him stand out was the fact that he was the one who was always walking Batman onto a crime scene.
Yeah.
And I did the police slowly adapting to that.
Yeah.
I guess not slow.
But he's not obviously Jim Gordon. So.
Yeah, we had to be told that. And I don't know, maybe that was a casting thing that they did too, but I like the whole thing.
Jeffrey Wright was coming off of Westworld.
Yeah.
So he was, he's the hot new thing. And, it's, and this thing happens all the time. And we saw it with Benedict Cumberbatch, was getting cast in everything. And then Chris Chris Pratt was in everything. So these things go in cycles. You get the hot actor for the month, and he gets cast in 12 different projects all at once, and then nothing. And then, we're on to the next flavor of the month. And I think Jeffrey Wright was coming off of the success of Westworld, a lot of acclaim for his performance there. And that probably led to this.
Well, I need to see it again because I haven't figured out yet whether I like it better or just as equal to The Dark Knight. And I think the deciding factor is the villain, because the Riddler doesn't look anything like the Riddler. He looks more like Doomsday than the Riddler with all the wraps and goggles and stuff. But at the same time, the Riddler was more riddlery, if I can say that, than the Joker was jokery. The Joker in The Dark Knight was nothing. There was nothing Joker about him other than the makeup. He didn't use any Joker gimmicks. He didn't use any the traditional Joker crime tropes. Riddler left riddles, and they were hard, and they were pertinent, and they weren't 1966. So, yeah.
So
anyhow,
yeah. All right.
That's
so
a
I've got another stream that I got to get to. So
do I. So, Jason, thanks for coming on. Congratulations on 13 years.
Thank you.
We wish you continued success, and like I said, I learn a lot from watching your show. As how I want to handle things. I don't always put them into practice, but I learned to do it. I just haven't practically done it yet.
It's a constant evolution process for me too. So,
all right. Thank you, Kanan. Everybody in the chat, appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you. And as always, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.